Proportional push. Women's groups rally for electoral reform for the next federal vote. Would a proportional system put more women in parliament? One advocate calling for change thinks so. The campaign for a voting system based on proportional representation gained some new support today. A number of prominent women's groups have joined the Every Voter Counts Alliance, formed earlier this year to push for PR. The government has promised to table legislation within a year to change the way Canadians vote. The women's groups who've joined the alliance say proportional representation could lead to an increase in women in parliament. Currently, only 26% of Canada's parliament is female. That puts this country 61st in the world. But would a PR voting system on its own guarantee more women in politics, and could a quota system actually backfire? Joining me now from Toronto is Donna Dasko. She is co-founder and past national chair for Equal Voice. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
And you've joined this campaign for proportional representation because you think it will help women. Tell me why.
Well, proportional representation is a principle, and there are many different systems based on this principle of PR. But the fact is, if you look around the world and if you look at countries that have PR systems, they tend to be better for women. They tend to produce and result in more women sitting in elected legislatures and assemblies. So it's a better system for women, and I want to see more women in politics. I want to see more women in our parliament, and therefore, if we're going to have electoral reform, I think this is the kind of system we should adopt.
Why does a PR system lead to more women?
Well, what tends to happen is in many PR systems, the parties create a list of candidates from which it's either a partial list or a full list. And when they have to make that list public, it's under public scrutiny and people see who's on the list, and there tends to be pressures in that kind of environment for there to be women well placed on the list. So whether it be 50-50 on the list or higher numbers than usual, it's the kind of public scrutiny that you get in those systems that result in women getting higher up on the list, and they end up getting into the parliaments because of it.
Does it, though, and I think you're talking about a mixed member proportional system in that situation. Does it,
or a full PR.
Yeah, or a full PR.
Yeah.
Does it then, though, create different sort of categories of elected people? Because you have the people who are duly elected as candidates and run, and then the people who are on a list and chosen by the party.
Well, I'm not so sure that happens. I haven't really heard that as, being a problem for the systems. And, the fact is, if this is what it takes to get more women elected, I think it's a good thing. So many countries in the world have this kind of a system, so I think it's proven itself in many countries. I mean, we hear about the bad examples, but so many countries have it. And Rosie, if you look at the countries in the world where women do well, where there are lots of higher percentages of women sitting in their parliaments, they tend, many of them have PR systems.
Well, many of them have PR systems. There's about 90 countries in the world that use some form of that, but some of them also use a quota system to make sure that there is a good representation of women, because it's not, I don't think, PR that automatically reassures that. So they also then put in place a quota system. Would you be in favor of a quota system?
Well, I think that would help, yes. I mean, PR doesn't automatically create more women in parliaments. But it's more likely to result in more women. And it is true, as you said, that many countries that have PR where they have more women, they also may combine it with various quota systems. Those could be legislated quotas, or they could be party quotas where the political parties themselves take it upon themselves to make sure that women are represented among their candidates. So there can be many ways to look at this, but I think overall, the conclusion I've reached anyway, just looking at this over the many years that I've been, trying to get more women elected, is this would help. It would help. It would help us.
So what is preventing women then from getting elected? Is there some sort of, I don't know if the right word is bias, but some sort of, something that's keeping women blocked from the parties beyond maybe just it's a difficult thing to choose for a career, but what do you think is keeping women out of politics?
Well, I think the parties themselves aren't doing enough to find and recruit female candidates. I think the women are out there. I was looking at the 2015 federal election, and there were 474 women running for the 5 parties, and so there's more than enough women who are willing to put their names forward. There are more women actually running for parliament than there are parliamentary seats. The problem was that those women were not running in winnable ridings for their parties, but they were running, so they're out there. Obviously, women want to run because there are lots of women who are putting their names forward. So the parties, I think, have to do more. I think they have to outreach more. They have to make it a priority for them to bring forward female candidates in winnable ridings.
In winnable ridings, I was just going to say, because that is often the allegation as well, is that sometimes women end up in non-winnable ridings because parties don't want to lose an incumbent, and the incumbent is more likely than not to be a man.
Well, it's true. I mean, incumbency is definitely a feature of our system, and it's very hard to remove incumbency because there are also women who are incumbents as well as men.
Sure.
But still, like for example, if you take the New Democratic parties across the country, and I'm not a partisan, I'm just telling you that what they tend to do is they have policies where they require riding associations when they're having a nomination meeting to reach out and to find and recruit female and minority candidates. So as a result of that policy on the part of that party, they have a substantially higher percentage of women running for the party, and they end up with more women sitting in their caucuses. So, you know, it shows that parties can do it if they take it seriously. They can implement such policies, and we'd see more women in our parliament if the other parties did that.
This is, you know, an important part of the conversation, obviously, that we're going to have over the next number of months until we see this report. But do you know, the other part of this conversation is whether the government has really the mandate to decide what the voting system should be going forward. Do you personally think that this is something that needs to go to a referendum?
Well, you know, I think a referendum is something that a lot of people expect. You know, although the government certainly has the right to have a committee where they're represented in a majority, there has become a kind of a custom now in this country for electoral system change to go to a referendum. We had a referendum in Ontario, we had 2 referenda in BC, there was one in PEI, so a lot of people expect it. I haven't decided whether, you know, I think that's necessary or not, but I do think that the process has to be a serious process where we actually look at all of the systems and take this very seriously.
Lastly, let me end on this, and it's sort of related, I guess, in terms of why, you know, it might be difficult to get more women into politics, and this is in relation to the way some female politicians are treated on Twitter. Yesterday, the Alberta Minister of Environment, Shannon Phillips, was subject to some pretty shocking abuse. Someone tweeted to her, she had put out her climate change legislation, and someone tweeted back to her, quote, "My boot would look lovely on Shannon Phillips's face," several times, in fact. You know, when you see that, and that's just one example among many, what do you think is the impact of those kinds of things on, you know, people like you who are trying to encourage women to come into this world?
Well, I think it's serious. I think we've heard a lot of complaints from women in politics. Michelle Rempel and others have talked about this. Lisa Raitt and many other women have talked about this. I think it is a problem. I think it may hold some women back, but I, for one, am not willing to say women should not run because of these things. I think women should run. I think they have a tremendous amount to contribute. This is a democracy. And we also know that many women do want to run because I've quoted you the numbers that, you know, we have seen an increase in the number of women who've actually put their names forward. So I think we have to deal with these issues. I think we have to try to change the culture. I think more women in politics will change the culture. I think it will make it easier for those women who are there now. But I think we have to forge ahead and recruit women to run. And I know they're there. I know they want to be in politics and be part of this, a bigger part of this democracy than we are now.
Okay, Donna Dasko, some thoughtful ideas there. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Take care.